All right, so we are here in geometry doing some more Algebra 1 review. So today's date is Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. Make sure your name and date are on your notes. All right, undoing a square. This was what our warm-up was all about. Again, our warm-up was over here. So our warm-up, what did we have to do to undo a square? What did we do to both sides? Quiet raised hand. I see Beverly's hand. Who else has a hand? Come on, just review from the warm-up. Yeah, Emily. There it is. Square root. Write it down, everyone. Square root. All right, so now I have Emily's card. If I come over here, oh God, I was checking homework. There we go. I have Emily. Where are you? Starts with an E. That is helpful. So square root both sides. But when you square root, now I'm on the star part. The side that didn't have a square could be something or something else. I'm looking for a word that starts with a P, something that starts with an N. Beverly? Positive. There it is. Positive or negative. Thank you, Beverly. And what was the sign? Another quiet raised hand. What was the sign for that? There's that special symbol. Ellery.
It's a plus over a minus.
Yep. And that's actually the way that you pronounce it too. So under here I'm going to say this is called plus or minus. Plus or minus. Thank you, Ellery. Oh, and I forgot to do marbles. Let me get that out as well. I have to get warm up as well. All right, so we have example 1. So obviously I'm going to be undoing the square. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Let me get caught up. So we had Emily, we had Beverly, we had Martine. Who else got a marble? You got a marble? All right. So square root both sides. This is how it's going to look. We square root the left, we square root the right. The reason that I put this little tail here on my square root is because it tells me where the square root ends. In the future, we'll have something like square root of, I don't know, 23x, and you're asking yourself, is that the square root of 23 then x, or is it square root of 23x all together? So the tail just is a nice reminder of where it ends. You don't have to do that. It's just kind of a nice thing for Mr. Sindel to see. All right, and then finally, my answer. This square and square root now cancel each other out, and I'm left with just x. X is equal to what? Quiet raised hand. Use that symbol, pronounce that symbol correctly. Cheyenne? You got it. It's this symbol right here on the right hand side. How do you say it? Plus or minus, and what's the number? There it is. Yeah, thank you, Cheyenne. Everyone write it down. X is equal to plus or minus 5. All right, this one is going to be a little bit harder, but still, I need to undo the square first. This square is the first thing that I need to do because I'm looking at PEMDAS. And I'll review this in a sec, but I'm looking at PEMDAS. I'm going from the bottom to the top. I'm getting rid of exponent before the parentheses. So I'm going to have to take the square root again. Everyone write it down. You're taking the square root of both sides. Square root of both sides. And this one is going to be a little bit trickier, but can someone tell me what I now have? What do I write on this line after taking the square root? Only one person knows. 2 people know. India.
Plus or minus x plus 1 equals plus or minus 5.
Ooh, careful. So you're only going to have the plus or minus on the side that didn't have the square. So only on the right-hand side. So plus or minus 5, as you said. And then on the left-hand side, what are we going to have?
X plus 1.
There it is. Everyone write it down. X plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 5. Thank you, India. And then from there, you need to obviously solve for x and subtract 1 on both sides. So minus 1, and you get x is now equal to, since these ones cancel each other out, plus or minus 5 minus 1. And it doesn't matter where you put this minus 1. It could be minus 1 plus or minus 5 or plus or minus 5 minus 1. All right, and of course, you need to be able to turn these into 2 answers. So on Khan Academy and on the paper homework, I'm always looking for 2 answers. If you have the same answer, like plus or minus 5, you can leave it like that. I know that you know, and write this down, that these 2 answers are positive 5 and negative 5. Those are pretty straightforward. Write it down. I usually do arrows to indicate that that is actually 2 answers. You are writing that down in your notes as well. But this one can be a little bit harder to see what the two answers were. This is two answers. So first I'm going to choose plus 5, the positive 5. Positive 5 minus 1. So what's 5 minus 1? Everyone shout it out. 4. Only one person did it. And then what's a negative 5 minus 1? Negative 6. So this one is a little bit harder to see. So this one is really important to write out the answer. X could be 4 or X could be negative 6. And again, if I plug those numbers back in, I can check that that would actually be 25. All right, I just need to see fist of 5. How well is everyone following, especially those people that haven't participated yet? I got a 3, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 4, a 4, a 4, a 3, a 5. Okay, anyone want to ask a question before we move on to other stuff? Because I had a lot of 3s. Maybe it's just low energy, we'll see. All right, order of operations. Someone read off the letters. What are the order of operations? The thing that's up on the wall. You can literally read it off the wall. Order of operations. Only 1 people, 2 people, 3 people. Caroline. PEMDAS. There it is. So P, E, M, D, A, S. Notice that multiplication and division are on the same level. Addition and subtraction are on the same level. It doesn't matter which one you do when you get to that point. The key part about this is I move from the bottom to the top. You only move from the top to the bottom when you're simplifying, but when you're solving, write it down. So when you're solving, you go from the bottom to the top. Because you're undoing things, trying to undo things that happen to X. All right. Let's go on to our example 2 after we write down PEMDAS. If you forgot what PEMDAS stands for, P stands for parentheses. I'll just do the symbols really quick. Parentheses, exponent is something like x squared, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. But if you know what those symbols are, you obviously don't need to write those symbols out to the side. I'm now on to example 2. Find the zeros of the function. And it's kind of a review from yesterday. What am I setting equal to 0? I'm doing something for zeros. What am I setting equal to 0 to find zeros? Is it x? Is it y? Is it f of x? Is it 128? One person knows. Who else knows? Setting what to 0? I only see Ellery's hand so far. I see Ellery, India, and Sam, and Colby. Colby, go for it. Yeah, we're setting that f of x, which is really y. So we're setting that y equal to 0. And I'm going to rewrite the rest of the equation after Colby sets it to 0. So 2x squared minus 128. Thank you, Colby. And then from there, I'm going to solve. So I'm going to undo things. I'm going to first check for addition and subtraction. Is there any addition or subtraction? Ah, there is. So, quiet raised hand. What am I going to do to both sides? Uh-oh. 2, 3. Ellery. There it is. Add 128 to both sides. Plus 128. And now this 128 and 128 are going to cancel out. I'm now left with 0 plus 128, which is 128. 128 is equal to 2x squared. All right. Still going backwards with PEMDAS, going from the bottom to the top. What is the next thing that I'm going to undo? And how am I going to undo it? I'll scroll so that people can see a little bit easier, so we're not looking around heads, hopefully. Yeah, Sam. Ooh, careful. So you're thinking of the exponent. So let's go with order of operations. We got rid of the addition and subtraction. Do you see any multiplication or division happening that you can undo? So divide both sides by, there it is, yeah. So divide both sides by 2, divide both sides by 2, and I'm now left with, what is 128 divided by 2? Does anyone know that? Can someone shout it out for us? 64. All right, thank you. 64 is equal to x squared. Colby's in. Sam is in. Colby's in. Sam is in. And finally, what am I going to do to both sides? Quiet raise hand. Caroline. There it is. Square root both sides. Square root the left, square root the right. And I ran out of room here, so I'm going to come back up to the top right. That means on the right-hand side I have x. And Caroline, what do I have on that left-hand side? 8. You have half of the answers. What's the other half, Caroline? There it is. Plus or minus 8. Box our answer. We know that that really means it's a positive 8 or it's a negative 8. Thank you, Caroline. All right. That was one homework assignment. There are technically 4 homework assignments if you're doing Khan Academy. If you're doing paper, there's just 2. 2 of the homework assignments tonight are just strategy, what should you do, and then 2 of them are actually solving. So the actual solving one looks like example 2, one looks like example 3. So really quickly, let's go through example 3. It's very similar to example 2. Again, I'm going to set something to 0. What am I going to do? Quiet raised hand. Lead me through this. Quiet raised hand. Oscar. Set x to 0, so 0 minus 10 like that. Ooh, almost, but not quite. Go ahead and look at that example number 2 right above. What did we set to 0?
Oh, the f thing?
Yes, the f of x thing, yeah. So 0 is equal to, and I'm going to copy down the rest of Oscar's equation, x minus 10 squared minus 36. Yeah, thank you, Oscar. Do set f of x, or that's technically the y, equal to 0. So Oscar is in. I now have your card, Oscar. Oscar gets his marble. Thank you. All right. Next. What do I do? Again, this is following with orders of operations, going reverse PEMDAS. What am I going to do to both sides? If you already know what you're doing, just go ahead and do it. Sam, go for it.
Do you add 10?
Ooh, careful. So 10 is trapped inside the parentheses. So before you do the stuff with the parentheses, I do the stuff outside the parentheses. So what am I going to do then?
You add the 36?
You do. You add the 36, because that's the only thing outside the parentheses. Thank you. All right, so Sam tells us add 36, and that means we have 36 on the left and an x minus 10 quantity squared on the right. All right, thank you, Sam. Next, what are we doing? This is very similar to the problem up here on the top right, for example, number 1. What do we do when we have something squared? How do we undo that square? Ellery? There it is. Square root both sides, square root both sides. And Ellery, what do we have on the left-hand side when we square root? You have half of that right. You're missing the symbol that comes right in front of it.
Oh, sorry, plus or minus 6.
There it is. Plus or minus 6 is equal to x minus 10. Thank you, Ellery. All right. Last chance for XP. For example number 3, what's the final step? Colby, you want to do it?
Add 10 to both sides.
Add 10, add 10. So now I have 10 plus or minus 6 is equal to x, since those 10s cancel out. And that would be my answer, but that's a little bit confusing, so I'm going to write this in 2 different answers. While that is technically the answer, I'm going to write it a little bit better. So Colby, you are now in again, more XP. All right, so first I'm going to do 10 plus 6. So I'm going to say x is equal to 10 plus 6. 10 plus 6 is 16. But x can be also something else. 10 minus 6. 10 minus 6 is 4. These are our 2 answers. And usually Khan Academy wants the smallest one first. And sometimes smallest is a bad word, but the most negative, I guess, first. So 4 first, and then 16 next if you're doing Khan Academy. If you're doing paper, it doesn't matter the order. Okay, I promise that there is an example on the back. This one I'll make as fast as possible. So I'm going to call this example 4. It is example 4, right? Yeah, example number 4. What happens when you do something like x squared plus 1 is equal to, let's make it 11. This one has a problem because it needs a calculator. I'll show you why. First, Mr. Sindel is going to subtract 1 on both sides. You're following along with me and writing these in your notes because this is one of those other homework assignments that might not be known how to do. 11 minus 1, that's pretty straightforward. That's 10. On the left-hand side, these 1's cancel out, and I'm left with x squared. Oh, shoot. Now the square root of 10 doesn't have a nice answer. I have to use a calculator. So I'm going to square root both sides, square root both sides. X is now equal to the square root of 10. You can use whatever calculator you like. So if I come back over here, I do SQRT of 10, it's about 3.162. So I'm going to round to 3 decimal places. I think Khan Academy does 3 decimal places as well, maybe 2. Just read the instructions. So I'm going to do 3.162. X is now approximately equal to 3.162. And you'll have to round. And sometimes you'll have to keep doing addition and subtraction with that decimal. All right. I want to know, fist of 5, how well do you think you can do these problems on your own? I see a 5, I see a 3, I see a 4, a 3, a 3. Is that a 5, Beverly? A 5. Is that a 4, Emily? A 3? All right, 3, a 5. Martine's giving me a 4. All right. So please. Oh my gosh, teacher error. Thank you, Beverly. Plus or minus the 3.162. Yeah, thank you, Beverly. I feel so embarrassed. Yes, I'm still learning to make sure I do plus or minus. I so often forget. Beverly, teacher error. If you have your extra credit tracker, log it. It's 1 extra credit point. Yeah, so it should always be plus or minus. Yeah, please write your summary. If you want to do the simplest possible summary, write a giant plus or minus. Don't forget the plus or minus. Once you finish your summary, you have 4 homework assignments. If you're doing Khan Academy. Yep. They're really fast, though. They go faster than any of the homework assignments you've done thus far.